Here's Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business talking about the dire situation that suddenly popped up this morning that no one could have seen coming.
Breaking news right now, and a spike in the producer price level of inflation. Take a look. Markets are selling off here because the July PPI came in up 0.9%. Worse than the estimated up 0.2%. This is the headline number. It was expected up 0.2, came up 0.9%. Year over year, it is up 3.3% versus an estimate of up 2.5%. Now, when you look at core, it's also troubling because in the core PPI, it was up 0.9% versus an estimate of 0.2%. Year over year, the core up 3.7%, also higher than the estimated expectation, which was up 2.9%. These numbers have caused markets to drop. The Dow Industrial is down 105, the Nasdaq down 71, and the S&P 500 lower by 19. We want to take a look at producer prices with the Transportation Secretary. Sean Duffy will be here to talk about other things like the modernization of the FAA, as well as the investment in space. But we're going to start off with getting his expectation and reaction to a spike in producer prices.
There's a spike in producer prices. Odd how that works. It's weird how Trump's tariff policies are affecting so many things that they said it wouldn't affect. It's also weird that core inflation is also on the rise at levels that they wouldn't have anticipated and expected. Weird how that works. Now, by the way, I'm no economist. I didn't study this stuff. I just listen to the people who did. Just pay attention. Like, you don't have to be an expert in these fields to listen to people who are experts in these fields to tell you how things work. And just listen. I don't even absorb it all. Many times I'm like, oh, wait, how does that work again? And I go back and I listen again. Since we're listening, and if we're not fully sure what it is that we're all talking about, this is also talked about on CNN, and it was detailed even more about what it is that's happening. So if it was confusing, here's more.
Breaking just a few moments ago, key new data showing wholesale inflation heated up last month. That's a potential sign for the prices consumers may see on store shelves in the months ahead. Let's bring in CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich, who has been tracking all of this. What are the headlines here, Vanessa?
Yeah, this report just out showing that the prices that businesses pay has heated up. So you're looking at a year-over-year change of 3.3%. The estimate was an acceleration to 2.9%, so obviously above that. And then on the monthly basis, the estimate, what people expected was 0.2%. That's coming in at 0.9%. Wow. So quite a bit higher than what was expected. We are seeing increases both on the goods and services side. So the products and then the services like airfares or hotels, all of those categories on the rise. And you can see that uptick just right there in the month of July, spiking up after kind of a volatile recovery after those pandemic highs. Key things to look at in goods. We saw the price of food, the price that businesses are paying for food, up 1.4%. And look at this. This is interesting. Fresh and dry fruits and vegetables, kind of a category that is interesting to look at because we import a lot of vegetables, but not from countries that are heavily tariffed. So there's something else going on, but this accounted for a quarter of the increase of all goods. This could be because of labor issues with immigration. It could be weather. It could be transportation costs, which also rose in the month of July. And then on the services category, you saw transportation and warehousing really increasing there. Trade services, these are the margins that businesses take in. Those actually grew, and that is because maybe they're passing more of their costs down to the consumer. And then finally, in terms of travel and accommodations, on the rise again. So you're seeing hotels up 3.1%. But if you see there, look at that dramatic increase from the month of June when we saw levels that really we haven't seen in a while, and July now indicating a huge spike. The reason we look at this report in particular, Jessica, is because ultimately businesses will have to make a decision. Do they pass this down to the consumer?
Right.
Clearly, they're paying more, and does that end up with all of us?
And
I feel like they said it kind of clearly. So anytime the producers who are making this stuff have higher costs, they either take it or they pass it on, and prices go up for consumers. So as things like the tariffs are causing their prices to go up, their costs of creating whatever it is they're creating or growing in this case, speaking specifically about the fruits and dry fruits and vegetables, if those go up, it goes up for everyone else too. This is what we've been talking about since April 2nd, when this guy brought out that billboard or the bulletin board and had all of these higher costs that he said other countries are going to pay. I want to focus one more time on the thing that they point out with the fruits and vegetables, because it's not just tariffs. It's also, again, as people said when he was proposing this mass deportation plan, folks that work in these industries, as you get rid of employees, what you do is you cause them to not be able to do the same product and the same output that they normally do. And when that happens, they lose, or they don't have the same amount coming out and prices go up, because people who make this stuff, people in business, they want to keep making the amount of money that they're making, if not more. So it's not just tariffs, it's this guy's entire policies. But again, I want to show you guys what Caroline Levitt said yesterday when asked about the problems with small businesses dealing with things like this.
So first, we've had small businesses tell us that it's not foreign exporters who are eating the tariffs, it's them. And they've held off on raising prices, but soon they're going to have to raise prices. What is the White House's message to them?
The White House's message to our small business owners across the country is you have never had a better ally or friend or supporter in this White House than President Donald Trump, who is a businessman himself, who understands your concerns and who wants to restore wealth back to our country through the powerful use of tariffs. And that's what he's focused on doing, while simultaneously driving down costs. You have to remember, we are 6 months into this administration, and we had a president who had no business experience, had no idea what he was doing, and who funneled billions of wasteful spending dollars into our economy, which created the worst inflation crisis in a generation.
The answer to small businesses saying that their prices and their ability to be in business going up is, my message to small business is that they never had a better friend than Donald Trump. Just like his message to people who see gas prices going up 60 cents a gallon is, gas prices are down. Just like to people who said they're seeing their prices go up in just their groceries. No, you're not. It's actually going down. Just like people who point out that Donald Trump's approval rating is cratering. It's like, no, it's not. It's at 98%. I want to point out a couple more clips here from these guys on CNBC.
There's an anomaly in the data here from what I thought was going to happen. I thought what was going to happen was this area called trade services, it's a measure of profit margins, would squeeze and actually exert downward pressure on wholesale prices. I think that was an expectation across the street. But these are big numbers. Trade of private capital up 4.5%. Trade of personal consumption goods, what the margins that they're making, all of them up big. And I don't quite understand why the government is saying that profit margins increased when we're not seeing essentially a lot of inflation in the consumer prices, but we're seeing prices higher on the wholesale prices. That should compress margins, and we've had a whole bunch of companies come on and say we're taking big hits because of these tariffs. So this number should be going the other way. I'm not sure what's happening here, but this should have exerted some downward pressure, and it didn't.
It didn't. Profit margins are not what he thought they would be, because these big businesses are reporting something that's not coming through on the way that it's supposed to. This last guest on that spoke right after he mentioned it. Her name is Kitty Richards. She explained what it is that these big businesses have so much control. What is they're doing to make sure their profit margins stay where it is they would like for them to be, and how that's going to really affect us later.
I actually want to focus on what we were just talking about, this difference between the CPI, which is only starting to warm up, and the producer price index, which just came in very hot. And part of what's going on there is that there is a bit of a timing mismatch between when consumer prices rise and when producer prices rise. So I think that the Fed is going to look at this and that CPE release that's going to come later in the month and say, ooh, we're not really sure what's going on, but it looks like there are going to be price hikes coming down the pike. I'm actually not surprised that we didn't see compression of corporate profits. That's something that's characterized the inflationary period since the beginning of the pandemic, that corporations are actually able to protect their profit margins and actually even increase their profit margins at times using inflation and uncertainty as cover for price hikes, even if their costs aren't going up. And so one of the things we're going to be looking for in the CPI as consumer prices are starting to rise is, are corporations actually taking hits, or are they able to use this moment of supply constraint created by tariffs and uncertainty created by the Trump administration to pass on higher prices even above their increased costs?